Every night, LeBron James sticks to one habit he refuses to give up: a glass of wine, and sometimes a shot of tequila. He's defended it through championships, injuries, and years of criticism. So why has he never stopped? The answer says more about LeBron than the drink itself. So here's the scene. It's a Monday night in March 2022. The Lakers just beat the Cavaliers, snapping a bit of a rough patch. And reporters ask LeBron the obvious question: how do you deal with all the noise? The criticism, the boos at home games, the constant chatter about a team that was supposed to contend, but was fighting just to make the play-in. And LeBron doesn't dodge it. He tells them exactly what he does when he walks out of that arena. He said, "I could care less about what the narrative about our team is. I don't read about it. I don't hear it too much. I go home, drink wine or tequila every night. And if I'm at my house in LA, I'm watching a movie with the kids, or I'm playing Madden." That's it. That's the whole thing laid bare, straight from him. No PR spin, no vague answer about staying focused. He goes home, he pours a drink, wine or tequila, every single night. And whatever the outside world is saying about the Lakers, about him, about whether Father Time is finally catching up, none of it makes it past the front door. Now, this isn't a one-off comment he made in a bad mood after a tough loss. This is a routine he's talked about over and over, across years, across 3 different franchises. In an interview with ESPN, James said he drinks wine almost every day, citing perceived heart health benefits. And he wasn't shy about explaining exactly why. Back in 2018, at a point when he was putting up numbers that made grown men question whether he was even human, he told ESPN, the magazine, and this is worth hearing in his own words. He said he'd heard it's good for the heart and that he was playing the best basketball of his life while drinking wine pretty much every day. So whatever it was doing, he was going to keep taking it. Think about the timing of that. This isn't some retired guy sipping Cabernet on a porch. This is a man in the middle of arguably the greatest sustained athletic peak in NBA history, telling the sports world that a nightly drink is part of the formula. And he's been remarkably consistent about the details. It's usually red wine. Sometimes it's paired with dinner. LeBron has a big dinner for his last meal of the day, typically baked salmon, red potatoes, arugula salad, and a glass of wine for this meal. Sometimes it substitutes the steak in for the salmon, but the wine stays constant, nearly every single night. And it's not hidden. It's not a secret vice he's trying to keep off camera. James has been quoted talking about wine during press conferences and posts photos of wine on social media, particularly on Instagram. He'll walk into an arena carrying it, literally back in December 2018. When he was sidelined with a groin strain and couldn't suit up against the Clippers, James arrived in style, walking into Staples Center with a glass of red wine in hand. Ahead of the Lakers game, he wasn't even playing that night. Didn't matter. The wine came with him anyway. So right there, you've got the anchor of the whole story: a 4-time MVP, a guy who's turned his body into a walking laboratory of recovery science, cryotherapy, hyperbaric chambers, compression boots, the works. And at the end of every single one of those high-tech nights, he closes it out with a glass of wine or a shot of tequila. Not once in a while, every night. And when people push back on it, when the criticism rolls in, calling it reckless or hypocritical for a guy who guards his body like a temple, he doesn't budge. That refusal, that's the story. That's what we're digging into. Because here's the thing that makes this genuinely strange when you sit with it. LeBron James is, by nearly every account, the most meticulously maintained athlete of his generation. Reports have put his annual spending on body maintenance at around $1.5 million a year. Chefs, trainers, recovery technology, no shortcuts. He treats his body like a business. And into that business, every single night goes alcohol on purpose. By his own admission, as a deliberate part of the plan, not a slip-up. It's not just an occasional glass either, casually mentioned once and forgotten. Across nearly a decade of interviews, the wording barely changes. He has a glass of red wine nearly every night. James has become a wine connoisseur in recent years and enjoys a glass of wine after dinner, or while watching other NBA games on off days. Whether it's in the off-season, during the season, or after a game, you'll constantly find LeBron James with a glass of wine in his hand. That last line is the key detail. In season, off season. After wins, after losses, after games he didn't even play in. The wine doesn't take a night off, and neither does LeBron. And he's roped other people into it too, which is part of what makes this such a talked-about thing inside the league. It's not some private habit he keeps to himself. It's become almost a social ritual, one that other players, other superstars, even rival competitors have found themselves pulled into. We'll get to exactly who joined him on that front a little later, because it involves one of his fiercest opponents on the court turning into a full wine partner off it. But first, we need to go back to where this all started, because the ritual didn't just appear out of nowhere. There's an origin to it, and it says a lot about how LeBron thinks about his own career and his own body. Every habit has a beginning, and LeBron's wine routine didn't start with him as a polished collector debating vintages. It started, by his own account, fairly recently in his career. Not something he grew up with, not something passed down. He picked it up as an adult, already deep into life as one of the most scrutinized athletes on the planet, and turned it into a nightly fixture, almost by accident, before it became deliberate. According to reporting on his diet, having developed a taste for wine just a few years before that 2018 interview, he's now a connoisseur. So this wasn't some childhood ritual or something he picked up in his early Cavaliers years, as a teenager thrust into the league. This was a grown man, already a champion, already a multiple-time MVP, developing a new habit in the middle of his prime and then deciding to keep it. And the way he talks about discovering it is almost casual, like he stumbled into something he didn't expect to like this much. In a clip that circulated widely, James described easing into the world of wine, explaining that he'd sort of started tasting different wines and had taken a while to figure out how to actually get into it, because it wasn't his first time drinking wine, but it took some time before it clicked. That's someone describing an acquired taste. Not a lifelong love affair, he grew into it. Now, part of the context here matters, because LeBron didn't develop this habit in a vacuum. He developed it during a stretch when a lot of NBA players, especially veterans, were shifting their after-hours habits toward wine, as a kind of grown-up alternative to the traditional partying image associated with pro athletes. Basketball players have become wine connoisseurs, mainly after finishing their careers. Some even own wine and tequila businesses, like Dwyane Wade. LeBron's longtime friend and Miami teammate went on to build an actual wine brand once he retired. Wade wasn't the only one either. Other NBA players like Carmelo Anthony, Chris Paul, and Devin Booker share a similar love for wine. So LeBron wasn't inventing something out of thin air. He was stepping into a culture that had already been forming around him inside the league. But he took it further than almost anyone still active and playing at an MVP level. There's also a moment that a lot of people point to as accelerating the whole culture: the 2020 NBA bubble in Orlando, when the league shut the world out and packed every team into a sealed campus to finish the season during the pandemic. Life inside that bubble was strange, isolating, and players needed ways to cope with the monotony. The players inside the Orlando bubble swore that wine helped them cope and relax. It got serious enough that players like JJ Redick and Josh Hart even had to ship their own wine inside the bubble, because the selection available wasn't up to their liking. That's not a casual detail. Grown professional athletes cut off from their families for months, treating access to good wine as something worth arranging shipments for. LeBron was right in the middle of that same environment, on his way to winning a championship inside that bubble with the Lakers, and by the time it was over, wine wasn't just a bubble coping mechanism for him. It had become permanent. From there, the habit crystallized into exactly what he described on that Monday night after beating Cleveland. Wine or tequila every night, no exceptions for wins, losses, or road trips. And the tequila half of that sentence has its own backstory worth mentioning, because it's not just a random spirit he picked out of a bar cart. It's perhaps unsurprising that tequila is one of James's drinks of choice, given that he's an investor in Lobo's 1707 Tequila, founded by Diego Osorio and CEO Dia Sims. He didn't just start drinking tequila, he put his name and his money behind a tequila brand, one built by people he clearly connected with on more than just a business level. He's talked about tasting it for the first time and immediately knowing there was something different about it, then getting more invested once he learned about the people building the company. So by the time LeBron is standing in front of reporters in 2022 explaining his post-game routine, this isn't a new revelation. It's the product of years of habit building, an acquired taste turned bubble-era coping mechanism, turned business investment, turned nightly non-negotiable. Wine most nights, tequila on others. Sometimes both find their way into the same evening, especially when the extended crew gets together, which is something we'll come back to. But there's a question that naturally follows all of this. If LeBron is this obsessive about his body, the cryotherapy, the hyperbaric chamber, the $1.5 million a year maintenance program, how does a nightly alcoholic drink fit into that picture without contradicting everything else he does? That's not a small question, and it's one LeBron himself has answered directly more than once with a very specific explanation rooted in what he believes the science says about his heart. This is where the story gets interesting, because LeBron doesn't treat the wine as a guilty pleasure he's just choosing to ignore the downsides of. He treats it as something closer to a supplement, something that fits into the same recovery-obsessed mindset that has him climbing into an ice bath at midnight or strapping on compression boots on a cross-country flight. He's said it plainly more than once, across different years and different interviews. He drinks wine almost every day, citing perceived heart health benefits. That word perceived matters because it tells you this wasn't something a team doctor prescribed. It was something LeBron heard about, believed, and then built into his nightly routine as a matter of personal conviction. And there is a real body of research behind the idea, even if it's more nuanced than a highlight reel quote makes it sound. Some research suggests that red wine, in moderation, helps build up good cholesterol. The theory that gets repeated most often centers on antioxidants. Red wine, containing antioxidants like resveratrol and polyphenols, may reduce clot formation and combat bad cholesterol oxidation, promoting heart health. That's a mouthful, but the plain version of it is this. Some of the compounds in red wine, in small amounts, have been linked in studies to better circulation and a healthier balance of cholesterol in the blood. The Mayo Clinic has weighed in on this exact debate too, and it's careful in a way that LeBron's quotes usually aren't. Researchers believe part of the reason wine might be linked to fewer heart attacks has to do with the antioxidants in red wine, which might increase levels of good cholesterol and help stop cholesterol buildup. But the same source is quick to add a caveat that doesn't always make it into the highlight quote. Doctors don't recommend that people start drinking alcohol purely for heart benefits, especially if there's a family history of addiction. The framing there is specific. If you already drink, moderation might carry some benefit. It's not a green light to start. LeBron, for his part, has talked about it like a guy who's made peace with the trade-off and decided the math works in his favor. Back in that ESPN magazine conversation, he laid out his logic about as simply as it can be laid out. He'd heard wine was good for the heart. He was playing the best basketball of his life while drinking it most nights. And whatever the actual mechanism was, he was willing to keep doing what seemed to be working. And there's a specific claim tied to this that's been repeated across multiple outlets covering his career, that he's connected his run of all-star selections directly to this habit. According to James, he attributed his consistent All-Star Game appearances since 2015 to his daily wine ritual, claiming that it coincided with his best basketball performance. That's a bold thing to say out loud. He's not just saying the wine doesn't hurt him. He's saying it lines up almost suspiciously well with the best stretch of basketball in a career full of great stretches. Now, it's worth being honest about the other side of that coin too, because LeBron himself has heard it and the science backs up the concern. Excessive alcohol intake cites different negative effects like high blood pressure and increased heart disease. Nobody, including LeBron, is arguing that more is better. The entire premise of his defense rests on the word moderation. One glass? Maybe two. Not a bottle. Reporting on his habits has generally landed in the same place. Even with the love of the drink, LeBron James is staying within recommendation limits and enjoys heart health benefits from his moderate wine consumption. That framing, moderate, deliberate, paired with dinner rather than replacing it, is how LeBron has managed to keep this habit going for years, without it ever becoming the kind of story that follows athletes with actual substance problems. It's baked into his evening the same way his ice bath is, or his hyperbaric session, or his 8+ hours of sleep that his trainer Mike Mancius has called the single most important recovery tool he has access to, one he gets for free. LeBron himself has echoed that, saying that solid sleep is basically the equivalent of putting your phone on the charger before bed. Recovery. He doesn't have to pay a technician for. So in his own mind, the wine sits inside that same category. Not a vice competing against the recovery program. Part of it, a nightly ritual that closes out a day built entirely around maintaining a 40-year-old body that's still performing like it's 25. But here's where the story stops being simple, because not everybody watching from the outside sees it the same way LeBron does. When photos and videos of him with a glass in hand started circulating more widely, especially ones involving some very recognizable company, the reaction from fans wasn't universal admiration for his heart health regimen. It got a lot messier than that, and it involved names you'd never expect to see paired with a wine glass and LeBron James in the same sentence. This is the part of the story where the ritual stops being a private habit LeBron talks about in press conferences and turns into something very public, very social, and, for a certain corner of the internet, very controversial. Start with the company he keeps. LeBron's wine nights aren't solo affairs sitting quietly with a book. They've turned into full gatherings with some serious names attached. One of the moments that got the most attention online involved his Instagram stories showing the aftermath of one of these nights. James's latest post on his Instagram stories featured 7 finished wine bottles, courtesy of some help from Green, which garnered strong reactions from NBA fans. That Green is Draymond Green, yes. The same Draymond Green who has spent years as one of LeBron's most physical, most contentious rivals on the court, guarding him, talking trash to him, getting into it with him in playoff series that meant everything. And it wasn't just the two of them. It was an impressive wine lineup that Clutch Sports founder Rich Paul and Spring Hill Entertainment also joined in on at the gathering with the NBA stars. Rich Paul is LeBron's longtime agent and one of his closest friends. Spring Hill is LeBron's own production company, so this wasn't a random run-in. This was LeBron's business circle and one of his fiercest on-court rivals, all sitting around finishing off 7 bottles together, and LeBron posting the evidence for the world to see. None of this should have shocked anyone who follows the sport closely. Honestly, it comes as no surprise that the Lakers star is fond of wine, as he would occasionally drink a few glasses in his previous Mind the Game podcast with JJ Redick. That podcast, which LeBron hosted, had already normalized the image of him with a glass in hand while breaking down basketball on camera. So by the time the Draymond post hit, longtime fans weren't shocked by the wine itself. What caught people off guard was the 7 empty bottles and the specific guest list. And the internet did what the internet does. The post was shared by Overtime on X, and it drew a wave of reactions. Some of it was funny, harmless ribbing. One fan joked that the group was probably discussing how bad their hairlines had gotten over the years. Some of it poked fun at the price tag rather than the quantity. One commenter said they couldn't even pronounce the bottles, but knew they had to be expensive. Some of it was pure engagement-baiting cynicism, with one user accusing others of being thirsty for attention over the post. But some of the reactions went a lot further than jokes about hairlines. The comparisons got pointed, and they got personal. One fan wrote flatly that LeBron is an alcoholic, calling it worse than Michael Jordan's gambling. That's a heavy comparison to throw around. putting a nightly wine habit, even one involving 7 bottles at a party, in the same breath as one of the most talked about controversies in NBA history involving a different legend entirely. Another commenter leaned into the same accusation more bluntly, saying LeBron wasn't beating the alcoholic allegations, a phrase that started circulating as a kind of running joke and running criticism at the same time. This wasn't the first time the internet had tried to turn LeBron's wine habit into a viral controversy either. There was a separate incident where a clip circulated suggesting LeBron had posted a video of himself drinking before a Lakers Thunder game, timed in a way that implied he was drinking right before stepping onto the court. That story required its own fact check, and once the actual footage and timeline were laid out, it became clear the video wasn't what the viral framing claimed. It wasn't a pre-game drink at all, but the fact that it spread as fast as it did tells you something about how primed the internet already was to believe LeBron's wine habit could cross a line even when the specific claim in that instance didn't hold up. That's really the tension running through this entire chapter of the story. On one side, you've got LeBron treating this like any other adult unwinding after a long day at a demanding job. No different, as one report put it, than how most working professionals cope with stress. NBA players are just like most of us, a fact that's easy to forget considering the level of wealth and celebrity they enjoy. And when it comes to relaxing daily, it seems the king is no different than a lot of normal people. On the other side, you've got a segment of fans and commentators who look at a professional athlete, someone whose entire livelihood depends on peak physical performance, and see a contradiction every time a wine glass shows up in his hand, especially when it's 7 empty bottles deep, with Draymond Green in the frame. And LeBron, to his credit, or to his critics' frustration, depending on your view, has never really engaged with the alcoholic accusations directly. He's never gone on a podcast or given a press conference response specifically addressing that word being thrown at him. He's just kept doing what he's always done, posting the wine, talking about the tequila, bringing Draymond and Rich Paul along for the ride, and letting the internet argue about it in the comments, while he moves on to the next game. But there was one moment, a real one, not internet speculation, not a misread viral clip, where LeBron actually did stop, where the ritual he'd defended for years, the one he'd tied to his heart health and his MVP-level play, got taken off the table entirely. And the reason why says more about his relationship with this habit than any press conference quote ever could. Every ritual eventually gets tested, and LeBron's got tested in a way that had nothing to do with public criticism or viral backlash. It got tested by his own body. And for the first time in years of talking about wine and tequila as a fixed part of his nightly life, he actually walked away from it. Not because critics wore him down, but because his back did. He explained the whole thing candidly on his podcast with Steve Nash, laying out exactly what happened during a stretch when a back injury kept him off the court entirely. Los Angeles Lakers star LeBron James said he gave up drinking wine and eating chocolate chip cookies for 2 months, while recovering from his back injury, telling Steve Nash on their Mind the Game podcast that he'd missed the first 14 games of the season and all of training camp. That's a serious chunk of time out. And when you're the guy whose entire brand, whose entire $1.5 million a year investment in your own body is built on availability and performance, missing training camp and over a dozen games is exactly the kind of moment that forces hard decisions. LeBron walked listeners through his own thought process in real time. And it's about as honest an account as you'll get from a superstar athlete about sacrifice. He said he'd been sitting there thinking he had to take something out, that he had to sacrifice something to get back on the court. So he started with the wine. James said that started with him cutting out wine, liquor, and dessert for the month of November. And here's the detail that turns this from a simple health story into something closer to a character study. He didn't plan on making it a long-term thing at first. It was supposed to be a short sacrifice tied to the injury. But once he got a taste of the discipline, something shifted. He said once he got to December, he was like, oh, and he kept going. He didn't have his first drink and his first piece of dessert until New Year's night. Sit with that for a second. A guy who's told the entire basketball world that wine or tequila is a nightly non-negotiable, who's tied his heart health and his all-star streak to it, who's posted about it and joked about it, and brought his rivals in to share it with him. That same guy went roughly 2 full months without touching a drop, right through Thanksgiving, right through the entire holiday stretch, and didn't break until the calendar flipped to a new year. That's not somebody who can't live without the ritual. That's somebody who chose to bring it back. And that choice matters more than anything the internet has said about 7 empty bottles or comparisons to other athletes' off-court controversies, because it shows the wine was never actually the thing keeping LeBron on the court or the thing threatening to take him off it. It was a variable he could remove entirely, hold off on for 2 months during the most demanding part of a recovery process, and then deliberately reintroduce. Once he'd proven to himself he'd done the work needed to get back. That's the piece that explains everything else in this story. Why he never buckled under the alcoholic jokes. Why he never treated the criticism as something worth a press conference rebuttal. Because in his own mind, and by his own actions during that back injury, he'd already answered the question the internet kept asking. He'd shown he could stop whenever the moment demanded it. For his body, for his recovery, for getting back onto an NBA court in his 20-plus year. And once he'd cleared that bar, once training camp discipline had done its job and the games were coming back into view, he decided the ritual was worth bringing back exactly as it was. Wine with dinner, tequila some nights, sometimes both, shared with Rich Paul or Draymond Green, or whoever happened to be around that particular evening. The habit didn't survive because nobody ever tested it. It survived because LeBron tested it himself, on his own terms, for his own reasons, and decided afterward that it belonged in his life. Every time a reporter asks him now how he unwinds, how he manages the noise around a franchise that's constantly under a microscope, how a guy in his 40s still moves like this, the answer hasn't changed since that Monday night after the Cavaliers game. Wine or tequila, every night. A movie with the kids or a round of Madden, and whatever anyone's saying about the Lakers stays outside the door. That 2-month stretch without it didn't end the ritual. If anything, it confirmed just how deliberately he's chosen to keep it. Not out of habit he can't shake, but as something he's tested against his own body, weighed against everything else he's built his career on, and decided deliberately and repeatedly to hold on to. And that's precisely why, night after night, season after season, franchise after franchise, LeBron James keeps pouring that glass.